What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. This is the Matt Ramage Show. And we are joined by Mr. Ivan Lars, known on Instagram. I don't know if we can say his real name. He's in witness protection, but I'll just say Eric.
Yeah, you're good. You're good with Eric. I'm good.
Yeah, we just can't give the whole thing because he's in witness protection. Used to do a lot of heavy lifting over there in New York back in the 80s. How you doing, man?
Good. Kind of sucks not, being in the playoffs, but,
Yeah, we got the Super Bowl coming up. Hopefully, we would hope the Packers would be in that thing, but they ain't in that thing.
Nope.
They're not there. And, so we're going to talk about some Green Bay Packers stuff. We got some stuff coming up. They got a lot of talk, a lot of chit-chat, a lot of what's what. And we're going to talk about that and also do some Super Bowl picks. You know what I mean? And
I got it.
And I want to talk about, the Chiefs have a situation where they can three-peat. Yeah. And I want to talk about that's already happened for the Green Bay Packers. But I'm not going to take anything away from like what the Chiefs are doing. But anyways, we're going to get into that. Let's get to a comment right here before we get some shout-outs to some sponsors. Jimmy has never looked better.
Wow. Hurtful.
Saying that, Jimmy Christensen.
Yeah, he's on a lot.
He's on here a lot. I gave him a week off, you know what I mean? But actually, me and Jimmy will be doing a live stream for the NFL Honors. I'll be live for the NFL Honors, kind of making fun of those awards shows, whatever, having fun with that. We'll see what it is and just having fun. But anyway, so check out that. I was actually going to live stream for the Pro Bowl. Like, it's on right now. I didn't even know it. I didn't know that. And then I seen like some clips and I was like, oh, maybe I didn't want to do that anyways. But anyway, we are here with Eric tonight. We're going to talk about the stuff. A big shout out, all right, to some great sponsors that I have. I'm going to say shout out to Quick Trip and Nicolay Law for being great sponsors. And Quick Trip right now, I just realized this the other day. I was over at Quick Trip. They have a new thing. It's called a Quick Snack. It's got one chicken tender and one cheesy breadstick in that thing. It's a smart thing. I don't know who. I want to be on the team that just thinks of different stuff to make for food. You know what I mean?
And I tell you, those cherry dunkers are the best too.
Yeah.
Get the cherry dunkers.
Yeah. If you just bring a variation of dunkers to any like event you're going to, you're going to be the coolest guy in the whole place.
Absolutely.
People are going to be happy with you. You know what I mean? But be sure to check out Quick Trip if you're not there already. But and if you're coming to a game next season, Quick Trip's got all the tailgate needs that you need. And Nicolay Law, if you get hurt in an accident, maybe you're in a Nicolay parking lot. Someone runs you down. You know what I mean? You don't need that in your life. But now you're out of work. Things are not going so well for you. And but Nicolay Law is going to make sure that you get what's coming to you. So, hopefully that doesn't happen to you. You don't want to get run down ever. But if you do, NicolayLaw.com, they got the hookup. Holla if you hear me. That's Master P. You probably don't know that. You probably don't know that. You don't know that reference.
No, I don't.
All right, so we're going to get into this thing. All right, so I haven't talked to you in a little bit on here. Also, I want to make sure I got the chat over here. So, everyone who's listening, watching, whatever, hammer the chat. Let's, if a question, you have something you want to talk about, let's get after it. But the Packers season ended in a way. I don't think we haven't really talked since then. What are your feelings about the Packers going forward in the NFC North? Everything that's going on. How you feeling? I think you're probably hopeful because you're a pretty optimistic fella.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. I don't even use hope because I don't think it's a strategy. I'm confident we're going to make the decisions we need to make to be right back to where we need to be. There are some concerns, and I don't hear a whole lot of people talking about the concerns, but for me, the thing I walk away from was the play calling was suspect at times. Yeah. And the use of the tight ends frustrated me all season long. And yes, we had moments where Tucker Kraft would have a game, but when you have Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, and we're having all these kind of receiving issues, these two guys are just animals. You could just throw it to them, and it's basically going to be a catch, right? So why we didn't implore that more throughout the season was a little frustrating. But I will tell you, the defense has me really jacked for next year. I really feel that, I was kind of wishy-washy on Hafley, but by the end of the season, Hafley's the man. He's earned my respect. So I think, I hear these people saying, well, we need to bring in a wide receiver and we need to bring in this and we need to bring in that. I don't necessarily know if that's the full case. I think a veteran receiver would help us. I really do. Who that's going to be is an interesting fodder, right? But and we'll talk about that all the way up till free agency is done, right? And then the additional piece is, Josh Jacobs was huge. And at the end of the day, what a blast to watch this guy work this past season. And I know there was a lot of questions when Aaron Jones left. God love the guy. He's going to be a Packer for life after he's done. But when Josh Jacobs came in, it was like, holy buckets, right? This guy's an animal. And how we implore that next year, how we utilize that next year and what that looks like, I'm pretty excited for. But I'm going to talk the same way I did last year. I'm calling it right now. We're going to the Super Bowl.
There you
Call
go.
me nuts. Call me crazy. Hell yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. What else are we going to do? We're Green Bay, right? I posted that a while back. I think you saw that, Matt, where it's different here, right? When we lose, it's different. Like when the Bears beat us, they're jacked up and thrilled and dancing off the ceiling. We don't care. We only care when we get to the playoffs and we don't win it all. And that's where we get frustrated. So we have a different tolerance level than the rest of the NFC North. And, watching the Vikings do what the Vikings do, the Detroit go down like that. And I don't think Detroit's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse now. I think they had their 2-year tier and now they're on the downslide. I really do believe that. I think they'll be tough, but I don't think they're going to be as tough as they have been.
Oh, I absolutely agree with Detroit. Like that was their window. And I mean, if they can bring in a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, and just be just as dominant, that'd be impressive. But I think it's gonna be tough. I think that they're gonna have struggles. But I think that, like you say, I think that they'll still be good. But let's talk about the Packers. About this, do they need a number one wide receiver? Let's talk about who I think. I'll say this. I believe Davante Adams is coming back to Green Bay. I really believe that. And I don't think it's going to be a big, huge contract. Like everyone talks about, like, oh, he's going to want big, huge money, but I don't think that's the case. I think that it might happen because I do think Christian Watson's going to be out for like a chunk of this season, probably like half at best, which sucks for him. I think that they need someone that they can kind of lean on a little bit. And bringing Davante in, if the price is right, if he does want the big money, then have a good time. Someone will give it to him. He's a good player, and he's still got some left in him for sure. But if he is willing to come back for the price is right, I feel like he could teach these young wide receivers some stuff. Just be a leader like in that wide receiver room. And he's still got it. I feel like he's still, he's a great route runner. I feel like if you're a great route runner, you can play longer because you can get open. Obviously, if you slow down, if your legs don't work anymore, his obviously do. I could see them bringing him back, but I'm not saying it's like for sure going to happen. But I have a feeling that Davante is going to come back. Now he's still a Jet now, so I think that when they have a new coach, they're going to want to clean house. I think not everyone, but.
Sounds like nobody wants to be a Jet right now. So
yeah, I don't think anyone wants to play there.
I don't think anybody wants to be there. I don't disagree with Davante Adams. In fact, I think that would be a really good move for him and for the organization. I think he can bring that voice and somebody like a Jaden Reed. And if you really think about it again historically, right, when we went through the Super Bowl 45 team, right, we had Greg Jennings there, and then we had Jordy Nelson there, and then we had Davante coming in, and then we had James Jones, and all these people were building off of each other, right? Because Davante was learning from Jordy and James, right, when he first came in. Now, these guys all came in from Jaden to Christian Watson to Romeo Doubs with no figurehead in the room. It came into a blank room, so they all came in together. And that's the aspect of what I'm thinking about, or I think you're alluding to is, somebody like a Davante or even a DK Metcalf or somebody who shows up in this room and says, this is how it is, right? This is how we do it. And I don't put anything against the Packers now because they got the cap room, and who would have thought, last year before at this point that Josh Jacobs was coming to the Green Bay Packers. Nobody thought that.
Dude, no one had even an inkling of that.
Yeah. And Xavier McKinney, we were floored. Like, there's no way they're going to pick up Xavier McKinney. And boom, there you are. So
yeah, and Speaking of like all that, we got some good comments coming in. I'm gonna get to those, but like Donald Driver back in the day, right?
Yep.
I remember him in an interview talking about it one time where he was saying because like his big thing, like he was a leader at one time
Yep.
in that locker room, was that we don't get tackled from the first guy.
Yep.
Yards at the catch. Like everyone remembers that game when he was running down the field. I think it was against the Niners. I forget who it
Yep.
was.
49ers.
And,
And the throwback.
yeah. And he was running. He's getting hit, and he got it all the way down there. That was a great play. But like that was like his thing. That we don't go down on first contact. So like everyone beneath him, all the wide receivers that came in, that's what they were taught. Like not just by him, by everyone. On that roster, all the wide receivers, like that's our thing. We don't go down. So everyone like kind of learned that. And Devontae Adams was like a guy where route running, and I think the guys that he played with, he kind of in practice kind of showed them that too, and like they all talked about it and worked on it. If it's not Devontae Adams, I don't care. Like I love Devontae Adams. I think he'd be great to come back. But if they do decide, because they have some cap space to go after T. Higgins or all these names that people say, I'm not sure T. Higgins is the possibility. I'm not sure he's actually going to be available. I don't care who it is, but I do believe that they need to go grab someone. They need to, and that's not a dog at the guys that they have. But Christian Watts is not going to be there. And like last offseason, I said, hey, we don't need a number one. We're going to spread the ball out. But like sometimes when you're in a game and things get like crazy and like injuries are happening and whatnot, I feel like you need that guy that's gonna gonna step up and you can lean on. Like, hey, I know he's gonna go make that play.
And I think the important distinction, and if you want to get to comments, we can, but I wanted to call up the important distinction is everybody's talking about what Jordan Love did, right? So he went that first part of the season where he was throwing interceptions. Then he went a huge amount of time without throwing an interception. And then in the playoff game, he threw the 3 interceptions. Yeah. That reeks to me like confidence in your players' ability, your peers to get open, to run their routes, to do what they need to do. And he's not throwing the ball while they're still making their break, right? He's not throwing it knowing that that player is going to be right there. There was hesitation there. And even in the Eagles game with the interceptions, there was still hesitation at times. And I just think that needs to be corrected too. And I think that's also somewhat coaching because he was throwing all the interceptions and suddenly after the bye week, it all changed, but then he wasn't taking any risk. So it was kind of like a little bit. Yeah, he was holding on to the ball way too long. He was dancing around trying to make things happen. So I think that that's the other aspect of this. But you get a Devontae Adams, Jordan Love's confidence is going to shoot through the roof, knowing that guy is going to be where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, and he knows the offense. It just makes sense to me. He knows Jordan Love. I mean, obviously. When he was playing in Green Bay, Jordan Love wasn't the starter, but like they know each other. But people are saying, well, he made his decision. Like that's what football is. That's the NFL. Like they're business people. He made a decision, and a lot of it had to do with wanting to play close to his grandma. His grandma could not travel to games. He wanted to play in a place where she could. So like I can't even fault him for that. But all that stuff that happened, if they brought Devontae back, I'd be all good with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he'd be back home.
You know what I mean? So we're going to get to a few comments over here. We got Jason. He says, what's your take on the new defensive line coordinator? I forget like who exactly they hired, but I'll say this. I saw a tweet that everyone that they interviewed was a defensive coordinator at one time. Yeah. So like they want someone who like knows the whole deal. They're not just hiring someone like off, their first job and like they're trying to get someone who is kind of knows the whole deal, kind of knows the whole business. And do you know who the new defensive line coordinator is?
They got the guy from the Patriots. So he was from the Patriots. So, and I didn't read into the details yet. So just so everybody knows, I just got home a little bit. But yeah, I saw it fly through this morning, but I haven't read it yet. But I know it's the defensive coordinator, or the defensive coordinator. I think from the New England Patriots now. So
and they hired a lot of guys, like someone from Dallas. They hired or not hired, but interviewed a lot of guys. And I ain't gonna lie, it doesn't matter what name it is. I don't know enough to like start breaking it down and like, oh, this guy's good. Yeah. But I do think that it's good that they're looking at defensive coordinators though. They want someone who kind of knows the whole business. They're not hiring someone who's kind of just got into coaching and he was like a cornerback specialist, and now he's a defensive line coach. Because that's always weird to me. Like, it'll be like, I know that's kind of how the ranks go with coaching. They kind of move guys up. But, like, this guy's a quarterback's coach. Now he's a running back's coach. Then he's a wide receiver coach. Now he's a defensive coordinator. They kind of learn all the positions really good. But it's weird when, sometimes you just don't know what's going on. But, yeah, I trust – dude, they got to get it right, though.
Yeah.
Right? Talk about the defensive line. I think the biggest, like you kind of mentioned it earlier about what are the biggest issues for the Packers is pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers need the Packers defense, like their pass rush is there or it's not at all. Like they might get pressures, it might get sacks, or it might be a game. It's almost like they're like not there at all. They have to fix that pass rush. I love Rashawn Gary. I love Kenny Clark. All these guys. They just have to make it all work as one and have consistent pass rush. And will they add someone? People talk about Myles Garrett. People talk about Max Crosby. I think that's kind of hopeful thinking. Because I think those teams are going to try to keep those guys. We'll see what happens, but
I think to your point, I think the front four or the front seven, right? We need the outside rushers coming in, and then I think secondary second, because I think if we get enough pressure on the quarterback, our cover guys don't have to be 10,000% great, right? They can be those middle of the road guys that are developing as long as we can get the pass rush. But the problem is, right, there was many times we couldn't get the pass rush, or when the quarterbacks would scramble out, it's like the entire defense was over on the other side of the field. And we got to get better at getting to the quarterback. So I agree with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. The pass rush is so huge. I feel like every good team, like I don't care who it is, because they were saying that about like against the Vikings, like, well, if you get pass rush on him, he makes mistakes. That's every quarterback. Like Tom Brady when he was playing, you get a pass rush up his face. I mean, I was playing Madden earlier, and I got rocked. Like if they're up, there's nothing you can do. Especially me. I'm Madden. I'm not very good, but I feel like that's like every quarterback. Get pressure. But I do want to get to this comment right here. We're kind of bouncing around here tonight. Here we go. Jaden Reed is going to have his best season coming up. He has always been him. I feel like he is like the guy that has like, Christian Watson, obviously he has that speed. He got hurt. But Jaden Reed, I feel like is a guy that's underutilized. I don't know why. And then I was yelling that too. But then when he gets his chance to kind of drop the ball, then I think he had a fumble. And I'm a big Jaden Reed guy. I think he's going to be a big-time Packer. I think he's going to get that second contract. But get him the ball, but he has to clean it up too. He has to make sure when he gets the ball, he takes advantage of that. But I think that he has all the tools that it takes to be a great wide receiver.
Yeah, and he had a little bit of regression, but I still think he's the man. Shout out to Spencer. Yeah, I see that Forever Young design.
Yeah.
There he is. Representing. He painted to your friends, pal. With that said, I think Jaden Reed is an untapped talent. And again, I think we got very stale with the play calling. This is where it's like we kept doing the same things over and over with him again. We didn't run him on straight line routes. We didn't run him on intermediate routes down the center, right? We just kind of kept him dancing around in the backfield and then bringing him out, which is fine. I'm not saying we shouldn't have done those plays, but we should have did a little bit more of what we saw last year, the previous season against Minnesota, right? Where he's running straight down the middle of the field, and get hit on a 40-yarder. That's where it just seems like that wasn't happening, or those play calls weren't happening. So,
yeah, give him the ball, because like they have him running around, dancing around back there, doing all those motion stuff, which is cool. It gets me tired just watching them. But give him the ball sometimes too. I want to get to this comment right here because Mannion is a good replacement for Clemens. This is a guy, like he was I believe a quarterback for the Vikings, right?
Yep, Sean Mannion. Yep,
yeah.
Sean.
So he I remember like when he first kind of went into coaching, everyone's like, dude, this guy is so smart at quarterback play. I remember like when the Packers kind of brought him on the staff, or like I forget when it was, but they were talking about him, and everyone was like, this guy is so smart. He's going to be a great quarterbacks coach. He's going to do all these things. Like when he kind of first went into coaching. So I do think that that's a good pick. If what everyone is saying is right, because I don't know. Like, what do I know about quarterback coach? Like, I'm just going to be like, oh, this guy's good. Until you see him actually do it, I don't think people watching really know.
And we got to have trust that LaFleur knows what he's doing with this, with the offense. and that he's going to make the right decisions with the right coaching people to bring him in. I mean, if you're a quarterback's coach, where else would you want to land but Green Bay? I mean,
Yeah.
you have an opportunity to make a name for yourself. That's what we do. And we pump out quarterbacks. And at the end of the day, I believe he's a pretty good quarterbacks coach. But to your point, I can't rattle off the things he's accomplished as a quarterback coach.
Yeah.
But I do believe he has, a great opportunity in Green Bay to work with one of the best skilled quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not saying the best player yet, but one of the best skilled quarterbacks there is out there right now. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think Jordan Love in his third year as a starter, that should be a time when people really kind of get the expectations up. And then he needs a good quarterbacks coach with that. But this is an interesting comment right here. People, a lot of people are saying this. Matt LaFleur needs to give up play calling duties. I don't know that it works too often when coaches do that, right? When I think Mike McCarthy did it at one point, ended up taking him back. I think other coaches have done it. They ended up taking it back. If you're an offensive coach who's used to calling plays and then you give that up, I feel like it doesn't always – I don't think it usually works out very well. But I do think that some of the play calling, it hasn't been up to par. Like there's – I think he would say that too. Like there's some sketchiness going on. I'm a big Matt LaFleur guy, but play calling has to get better. I'm not sure giving up the play calling duties is the answer because I feel like it doesn't usually work. What do you think about that?
I was actually talking to Ben, the Green Bay guy, last couple of weeks ago when we did a stream, and he was talking about this. And I said, if you could do anything with the Packers, starting tomorrow, I said I would go in there and ask Matt LaFleur to have somebody take over his play calling duties. But I put this caveat, I think I said it this way, is Matt LaFleur is still in charge of the offense and what's being ran or what's looking at it, right? But let somebody get a rhythm or let somebody have that. Now, I will say I would probably go back at that. I think the emotions were still a little bit high after that playoff loss. And I was like, sometimes you get all mad, at anything, right? You get mad at your wife about the chicken, right? I don't want chicken ever again. And then Tuesday, you're like, I want chicken. So it's kind of that same feeling. Matt LaFleur has showed to be a genius with offensive play calling. I don't know what happened at times this year. I think some of the play calling was genius when Jordan Love went out. We were running the ball against the Colts and the Titans, right? And we were playing our game. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. He's adjusting so great. And I was so in love with what he was doing. And then as we continued to progress, it just seemed like he was trying to force plays that haven't been working, and he's going to force them again. And yes, they may not be working because of the talent or because of the mistakes, but I think Matt LaFleur's, lack of a better term, he's got to find his rhythm. I don't think he should give away play calling duties, but I also think he has to fix it and respond to his errors from last year. And if he can't do that, then he might want to look at giving it up.
Like if he had someone like this is like a guy who has kind of the same philosophy as me, he has the same thoughts as me. He's gonna call the plays from now on. I'm gonna be in the offensive room and I'm gonna set up the plays and the scheme of that week. He's gonna be there with me, but he's gonna call the plays. I'd be okay with that because it gives him time to be like handle the rest of the stuff that is going on. And someone has just focused on play calling, someone who's just gonna get that rhythm, try to do that thing. But if they don't have that guy, like who is that guy? Like who would it be on this team? Who would be the person? And like I just feel like it doesn't work all the time. But if they think it could work and like he was down with it, whatever. And you had someone kind of had that same mindset that he has. Because, like, I do think that there were some issues with play calling where even, like, watching the games, like, what are we doing? Like, like I say, I'm a big Matt LaFleur guy, but, like, some of the play calling, like, made me want to throw stuff. I don't like throwing stuff.
Yeah, you do, right? Everything gets stale after a while, even if it's good. Right? Remember when jet sweeps first came out and we're like, holy buckets, look at that.
Yeah,
right? And then all of a sudden, we have jet sweeps all the time. And we're like, everybody's starting to feel these out, right? Let's stop the jet sweeps. So it kind of came in bundles. But overall, I would say the play calling was probably, a B-, right, for the season. But I think in crucial situations, we could have done much better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I expect everyone to kind of get better throughout this offseason. I feel like even it's the players playing together. But let's talk about Josh Jacobs. You talked about it earlier. He's my MVP of the season for the Packers.
Hands down.
Yeah. Even his kind of like after the season press conference interview, whatever you want to call it, you kind of talk about we need to bring some guys in here. We're a little bit of ways and we're close. Um, yeah, but like he's absolutely a dude, like such a great pickup by the Packers. I feel like even like when he was playing in that last game, like he was just fiery. Like they're trying to pull him down. Like he was fighting for his life to get every yard. Those they need to add a little bit to that though.
Yeah, they do. I think I know we have the other two people. What's his name? Young. Who am I thinking of? Young. The other one, Williams. But who's the guy we drafted last year?
Yeah,
USC.
I
Marshall
forget
Lloyd. Yeah. Marshall Lloyd.
He was not. Yeah, he was out all year.
Yeah. And we got things to look at there. But to your point, I mean, it's going to start and stop with Josh Jacobs. And I think the Eagles learned that, right? Because the Eagles were really trying to focus in on, with their passing game and getting things done. And the Eagles weren't looking so good at some point in the season this year, right? And then suddenly they came back and everything started circling around the run game. And that made Jalen Hurts better. That made everything around them better. And I think that's really, really important. And Josh Jacobs is, somebody just pointed, he's a stud. He's absolutely a stud. That guy was fun to watch all season. You knew when he got that ball, he could take off at any minute, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Do you think A.J. Dillon is a Packer next season?
And I would give it probably about a 20% shot, but if they can get him on the cheap, I still think he would serve a purpose, like a short yardage back, and get to where it needs. The only thing I always say on A.J. Dillon, he always is stop, and that guy was big enough to know he doesn't have to stop. Just run into that pile, and it's going to move 3 yards, fella. Don't you worry about it.
I like AJ Dillon a lot. I feel like that running back room is getting crowded, so it might be hard. I do think that if he's not back next year, if he goes on somewhere else, I think he will. I think he wants to play. It seems like, but I do think he's going to be a guy we're going to see in Green Bay for the next 20 years.
Yeah,
like you're going to see him all over the place. AJ Dillon's awesome, but we will see like. There's some decisions that they're going to make in that running back room, but like I say, it is getting kind of crowded. So, sometimes, those guys we like.
Hopefully they end up a Viking. Hopefully they don't end up a Viking.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well, or a bear. God.
Jacob was godsend, says Jason. Made up at times for the instability on offense. Yeah, they kind of. I feel like if they'd have leaned on him a little bit more. Like sometimes he got hot like in the beginning of the games, and then that was part of the play call that I didn't care for. Is they kind of went away from him a little bit, you know what I mean? And, But
and the Eagles didn't do that with Saquon. They run him harder, like keep going.
Yeah. That's kind of Barkley, dude. How bad is the Giants that they let Barkley go and McKinney?
Yep,
both went on to. I mean, there might be other guys too, but like those two for sure.
It's like Ray Charles is a talent coach there. All right, everybody, let's get rid of that guy. I don't even know who's running.
It's like someone whose kids playing Madden is running the show, but that's not that team. You know what I mean?
Oh no, that's Jets, right? Yeah, the owner's kids. So
let's get this comment. Tyler says, "I would love to see Dillon used in a fullback role. Him as a lead blocker for Jacobs would make some plays. Some players make business decisions. I've always said that is like to have like if you have a running back, like kind of a big type of running back, have him play fullback. First of all, because now not only like if it is play action, now you have two running backs, basically two guys who, not that fullbacks can't catch, but usually fullbacks are, they're like big bruiser type of fellas. Have two guys that can catch, two guys that are able to play running back, back there. I don't think that's a bad idea. I just feel like it's getting kind of crowded in that running back row. I'm just not sure how many that they're going to keep, and coming off an injury too. I'm not sure.
But we really don't really implore that, Matt, the fullback position anyways in this offense.
I don't think anyone does really anymore. It's kind of going away. Some teams do.
Yeah, except
not
for
a lot of guys that run out of eye like that.
The Dolphins. The Dolphins do it, and I think the 49ers have that kid too, that Jersakic or whatever his name is. They have that fullback there too. So Alec Ingold is in Miami, and the dude from Bayport, right? So, and then that other one. So that's the only two I can think of that are actually fullbacks.
Yeah, there's not a lot of teams that kind of like Kind of like that old school offense right there.
Yeah.
So what do we think about the NFC North? All right, the Bears got themselves a new coach, Ben Johnson, which that dude, like, at first, like, first of all, he sounds like he sells insurance, right?
Yep.
And then, like, that little comment he made about LaFleur, he's like, oh, I enjoyed beating him twice a year. First of all, he did it one time, right?
Yep.
From what I understand, he did it one time. It's like, oh, I enjoyed it. Well, that 1 year you enjoyed it, but now you coach the Bears, even though he did hire Al Harris, which I think was a great hire. But, like, dude, I hope that lights a fire under LaFleur.
It should light a fire. I don't.
I think it's a dumb thing to say.
Oh, yeah, it's a super dumb thing to say, especially for Bear fan. Hey, did you look at the history of stupidity that has come through and said this? Right? Don't do it. Right? Let your coaching, let your team do the talking. Right? You don't hear Matt LaFleur going around saying, "Hey, I love beating the Bears 11 games straight." You never heard him say that. He gave respect to him, and right away these people show up,
dude.
Down and
I think it's in their contract. Contract. You come coaching the Bears, you're opening a press conference. You got to mention beating the Packers in some way, shape, or form, and he took a shot at LaFleur.
And that's envious, right? And that's envious of people. And, good for them that they have that low of self-esteem that they got to try to, instead of having a winning program, we just want to be able to beat the small little town that's north of you that kicks your ass 11 out of 12 times. Excuse my French. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Right there. What does that say? Yeah, there you go.
Bears still suck, you know what I mean?
They still do.
Representing that merch. You can get that over in the merch shop, that hat he's wearing.
And the love. Papa.
Dude, there you go. You're wearing all that stuff. I should be wearing it too. I don't know why I don't wear my own merch from it. Oh, I'm wearing the hat though.
Yeah, you get your merch hat on, but yeah. I love the Bears still suck hat. I wear it a lot. So
yeah. So what do you think about the NFC North next season? I mean, obviously there's a big offseason to go here. We're gonna go to the draft and whatnot. But you think it's kind of stacked the same way? Maybe wins and losses are different, but you kind of think that the divisions are stacked up the same, or do you think the Packers make that jump?
I think the Packers will make the jump, but it's interesting, right? It's going to be interesting to see what Dan Campbell does, right? Because he's had these guys for 3 years now, right? And now they're gone, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. So you're instilling an offense into the coaches, and the coaches that are coming in are going to want to make changes, right? The Vikings are going to come back now, and they have their guy that they picked up last year from Michigan. What's his name, right? And then you got Sam Darnold, and that's kind of I think the Vikings aren't as good as they showed up to be. And I know it's easy to say wins and losses. And yes, you are right. Wins and losses show that they had an incredible season. But what also was shown, is they really don't have the wherewithal to really, the way the Rams beat them down was pretty silly. It was not a good game for them.
It was fun to watch, though.
Well, it was fun to watch. But I don't think the Vikings are there. I think the Bears will take a little bit of a step, but I'm going to say that cautiously, because here's the deal, right? We've seen this before. We've seen this play before. We've seen this game before. I've been waiting for this moment to talk about the Bears. All right, so Ben Johnson is, and I want to remind everybody of what we heard last year. Caleb Williams came in, and they Rome Odunze and all these things, and we picked up Keenan Allen, and we have all these things, and what did you do? Okay, I know you beat us, but what did you really do? 5 wins? Good for you, right? And that's, for us, that's pathetic. And for them, right, it's all this talk happens every season. And then once it starts going downhill, you can't find Bear fan. Bear fan disappears. And they're like, oh, it's all over, right? And I just don't have faith in the total ownership of that team, that I don't think they have the football people around them to make the decisions. Firing Eberflus was interesting because they've never done that before. But having Eberflus there when they walked into this was more stupid than firing him anyways. Why do you bring this guy in there after what happened? And so we've gone through this when they drafted Justin Field, and now we're going to go through this that they drafted Caleb Williams, and now Ben Johnson's here. Look out, it's all going to happen. And they always jump the gun. They don't say, hey, let's see what happens in 2 years and see where we're at after we develop everybody and get it there. Nope, Bear fan goes, it's happening. We're going to the Super Bowl. I guarantee you're going to hear all that crazy talk. And they're going to come out.
To be wild with the
and it's going to be, it's going to be nothing but a big disappointment, and I will roast my marshmallow on that disappointment. But, it's just, I don't believe in the organization's skill. Ben Johnson may be great, but we've never seen him as a head coach. right? And who he's bringing in, Al Harris is a great guy, right? We've never seen him as a defensive coordinator, right? I mean, or he's not the defensive coordinator. What's his name is from?
Yeah, he's. I'm not even sure what they hired him for. He was
Yeah,
the DB coach in Dallas. I assume it maybe
yeah,
similar, same role.
similar, but and they brought in Dennis Allen from New Orleans. But again, Dennis Allen got fired from New Orleans. Why? Because he wasn't a good coach, right? I mean, maybe a great defensive coordinator, but it's always off the scrap heap. When Green Bay brings in a coach, when we brought in Mike McCarthy, really nobody knew who he was. When we brought in Matt LaFleur, nobody knew who he was. We dig in and we find people. We find people that are skilled and going to fit our system. We're the Green Bay Packers. We're the greatest franchise in the history of the NFL. We don't dink around with has-beens and retreads. Now, Ben Johnson isn't that, but the way he talks, right? He's
There's a big difference between like being a great coordinator, because he wasn't in Detroit, but he had a lot of things set up for him, and he didn't really, Dan Campbell was the head coach. He was kind of handling the whole thing, so he just had to focus on the offense. And he had a good system there. Like they had it down. He's not gonna have the same thing. We will see, but like you said, I have no faith in Chicago running a good program and like putting it all together and coaching their quarterback right. We will see what Ben Johnson can do when he has to worry about the whole team, not just the offense. So some guys do it, some guys don't. I just don't.
So how I see it stacking is Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago.
There you go. I like that. All right, so now we're going to talk about something that's kind of been a topic all day or all week since the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a situation where they can get a three-peat in, all right? So Packers already did a three-peat twice. But that does not make what Chiefs can do, not to be impressive. Because that's the thing I think people talk about when Packer fans talk about, we did a three-peat. And I'm not even flexing. Like, people are like, oh, Packer fans are flexing on a, old thing, whatever. It's not even flexing. It's just saying, hey, that happened. The Packers did it twice. The once in the 30s. And I get that one because, there was no playoffs. That was a thing. But it doesn't change the fact that it happened. They did it. If it wasn't for the Packers and the Bears and a lot of those old school teams, the NFL might not be what it is. Like, those are the founding fathers of the NFL. And I think it should be respected. It's not taking anything away from what the Chiefs possibly could be doing. But and then in the 60s one, I don't think could be argued because the Packers won at 65, 66, 67, right?
Yep.
So 65 people say don't count. 66 does count. 67 counts. And that's the stupidest thing to me. Because you're like, okay, the two Super Bowls counted, but they won the year before. It was called the Super Bowl. Doesn't count. It's just moronic. I think people need to respect the history of the NFL. And those 60s teams, that was the best dynasty, I believe. That was so ferocious, and there was so much to it because it was the AFL, NFL situation where they were they're going to Vince Lombardi hey, you cannot lose. You cannot lose because they're scrubs. That's the AFL. They're beneath us. A lot of pressure. And those teams Ray Nitschke murdered people on the field. Those teams were just so ferocious, and not even to say oh, they're the best this and the best that. It's just hey, don't forget. People act like it doesn't count, and that just irritates me because they kind of built this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think you really summarized this really good. Somebody was running trash on your post yesterday about, well, did you see it? Because if you didn't see it, it doesn't matter, or something along those lines, some insanity, right? And then you said, well, World War II happened, right? Even though I wasn't there, it happened.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the thing I say to all this, because everybody always wants to bring up Super Bowls. So, I run the smack a lot of the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers. And we have all 13 championships. They're earned, they're won, they're ours. It's the history. And you can't take away history and say it didn't matter. I don't care what you tell me, because you're going to do that with baseball. You're going to tell me the World Series in 1902 didn't mean anything. Yeah. You can't tell me that, right? Because you're going to, in baseball, they'll go all the way back. Yeah. For some reason, and here's been my analogy all the time, just because the couch became a sofa doesn't mean it's not a championship. So we called it the NFL championship, and then we changed the name to the Super Bowl. Just because we changed the name doesn't mean it's not an NFL championship. So I use the couch sofa analogy. It's still the same freaking thing. So don't sit there and say, well, how many Super Bowls? Because somebody was with the Patriots going, the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls. I see the Packers only won 4. I said, yes, they did. And they also won 9 other championships. And by the way, when they won Super Bowl 1 and 2, they don't count the NFL championship that they won before that. So technically, we could tout 15 if somebody wants to run that at me, because they won the NFL championship and then went and played the Super Bowl. And somehow Minnesota wants to say, well, back in 1970, we did that before the merger. So we have a championship. Dude. Horse hockey. That's what all.
That's the thing that I'll say about Viking fans, because they always talk about that. Yeah. We won a championship and whatever year that was. I'm like, yes, but there was a Super Bowl winner that year.
Yeah.
You can't have 2 champions. You can't gloat for 2 championships. You didn't win the championship because there was a Super Bowl that year, and there's a Super Bowl winner. And the same thing with the Packers. And people are like, well, you guys don't give it to the Bears. I do. I always say to the Bears. Bears are in second place. Like.
9 championships. Yep. 1985 was the last one. And at that time I was 19 and now I'm 59. Just do the math. Anyways. Yeah. So it was, it was a long time ago.
If you look at the list, you got the Packers have 13 championships. The Bears have 9, Giants have 8, Steelers, Chiefs, and Patriots tied with 6, Cowboys, 49ers, Commanders, Colts tied with 5. To me, there's no reason not to count championships. I count the Bears championships. Like, I haven't won one in a while. But they still have those. I think it's silly, just like you could talk about like in the 30s and say, well, in the 30s they didn't have a playoffs. It was a different thing. But it's still a championship.
It's still a championship, and it's recognized.
Of the league, like even in baseball, like back in the day, like it was different. There was a lot of different things. Back in the day, look at Babe Ruth. He had a figure like me almost, and he was just, it's not the same.
I think
anymore,
you're better built,
like,
fella. I think you were in better shape than me.
I don't think so, dude. I got a beer gut that don't quit.
I can't.
Plus, I can't hit a baseball to save my life.
But to your point, right? It's immature and tomfoolery when people say it wasn't a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. It's just ridiculous. You wipe out any history you don't agree with. And I don't care what anybody says. You know what I would like to do? I would like to take anybody who wants to dispute with me with this and go to the Packer Post or Packer Hall of Fame, right? And bring them down and say, look at this trophy, read what it says. Okay, that says it's a championship. And that was this year, 1929. Okay, so the Green Bay Packers won that championship in 1929. Did anybody else win it? Yes or no? Right? Well, it wasn't a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. This was the crowned NFL championship of the NFL league. Okay? And now it's still the same league. It's just expanded. And again, you can't argue facts and history. And it's just, it's asinine, and it drives me nuts when people sit there and go, wow, how many Super Bowls? You can't, it's just ridiculous.
First of all, it's a hater thing to say. Like, it's just jealousy. It's you're trying to take something away from the Packers. And I don't care. People know, you guys brag about it. It's not a brag. It's just when they come out and start talking about the Chiefs are the first one to three-peat. And I have no problem with them saying that in the Super Bowl era. Even though the Packers and the one in the 60s was kind of both. It was kind of like 2 in the Super Bowl era, 1 not in the Super Bowl era. So if they didn't change the name a year earlier, I guess they'd have been the first. But I just think it's silly. Like, it happened. It's not a flex. I'm not bragging about a team, before my mom was born. But I'm saying it happened. Just like I say, like I was saying to people, World War II happened. Yeah. Like, I wasn't there for it. You can't be like, well, I don't know. Doesn't count. Like, it's not a real war. Like, what are you talking about? I know it's a big difference because whatever, some sports and the rest of the stuff is like, you can't really compare. But let's see what Tyler's got to say right here. We got a comment rolling in here. I disagree with you. Not really. I've just always wanted to go to the Packers Hall of Fame, but just don't have anyone to go with. Dude, Packers Hall of Fame. Great place to go. First of all, everyone should go to the Packers Hall of Fame. If you really want to learn about the Packers history, and not just like the way back history, they have a lot of stuff, of the 90s and like all the teams that, even like the lost eras. Yep. There was some stuff that happened back then that they got in the Hall of Fame. Yeah,
the 80s and the 70s. I was there. Tyler, if you ever want to go, just DM me, fella. I will meet you over there. I'll take you through.
Yeah, well, dude, we should all roll together. We'll get a squad over here. We'll get this offseason. We're gonna do a bunch of stuff. Hall of Fame. We're gonna I want to do a bunch of stuff. I actually want to show. I want to do a video, like a YouTube series, or maybe not a series, but like a long form thing where you show off the old neighborhood because you grew up in the Green
Yep.
Bay
Right across the street.
neighborhood. You know, what all
Yep.
those houses are now kind of, some of them are party houses, some of them are not. But even like just in those neighborhoods right there, that's where you grew up.
Yep.
So I want to walk through those neighborhoods maybe when it gets a little bit warmer, and then
Yeah.
and we'll talk about what used to be
Yep.
back when you were a kid, back in the good old 30s.
Stop it. Yeah, and it was a blast, right? But it was painful. 29 years of pain,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
we sat through it, right? Where we only had one playoff game, and that was 1985 against the St. Louis Cardinals, where Lynn Dickey threw 5 touchdowns, baby. I was there. It was
Dude,
awesome.
that's awesome. I didn't
Yep.
actually. I couldn't.
He actually
like,
holds the record yet. Nobody ever gives him credit for that. It's like Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody talks about Lynn Dickey's 5 touchdowns. But at the end of the day, Green Bay, you know, here's the thing I'll say to anybody when they say, well, how many Super Bowls? I said, Green Bay is the smallest NFL franchise in the entire country in the world, right? We have the most championships, we have the most loyal fans, and we have the greatest stadium in the NFL. And I'll dispute that with anybody. I know about the high-tech SoFi and Jerry World and all that shit, but and all that stuff, right? But they ain't Lambeau Field. It's not Lambeau Field. And that is the mecca of the NFL. Everybody tries to get to Lambeau Field. Why? Because we're the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers. And I know you say you don't flex, I flex. I will flex on anybody. We are the greatest historical NFL franchise of all time.
And that way I will.
Yeah.
I say we're not sitting around talking about the 1930s Packers nonstop. People act like I see people when I was talking about, they're like, oh, you live in the past. Like, bro, to talk about the past is not living in the past.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. When your franchise has no history, you want me to not talk about my franchise's history. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm sitting around talking about it all day like, oh, the Packers won in 1929. That was a heck of a season. No one's talking about like that. But to act like it didn't happen is foolish.
Yeah. And the history that they don't look at, right? Don Hudson held the NFL touchdown record for how long with 99? The guy was around for, and this is back with Arnie Herbert. Way back in the day, right? Nobody gets all that. And back then they would punch you in the mouth. There was no penalties. There was no pass interference. There was, it was blow to blow,
Dude, the Ray Nitch could pick people up and just throw them on the ground.
Yeah.
Just put like a sack of potatoes and just slam them.
No flag. And now you breathe on, Mahomes. Flag. Throw a flag. He got too close.
Yeah,
so,
these refs with their flag is like Clint Eastwood with the revolver back in the day. You know what I mean?
I think I said that on your stream, right? I got to get some autographed flags from the refs. So yeah,
we got this offseason we should do some history shows, like talk about certain points of history. Like some stuff, we can read up some stuff, get some stuff ready, maybe even get someone else to join us. But before we wrap this thing up, I want to hear your Super Bowl picks. Who do you got winning?
Well, I'm going to be reasonable and say that Philadelphia, with the talent on defense and Saquon Barkley, and actually when you see what Buffalo was doing, why they stopped running the ball is beyond me. But the running game of the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon with their defense, I see Philadelphia winning 27-16.
There you go. I can't root for the Eagles. I know that people
can't either, but
because they're fans. They're fans. I have a friend who's a fan. Shout out to Vinny.
Yeah.
All right. He's a great podcaster. But they're fans how they like yell at women and they're like,
I saw that. Yeah.
Snatch people's hats. I saw videos the other day of a Commanders game, and they're like, well, when they were yelling at the woman, they're like, that's not all of us. That's not us. It is you. It is you. I mean, I'm not saying people in Philadelphia are bad people, but I wouldn't visit. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. But no, at the games though, like they're so horrible. I like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Great show. Yeah. All right, but I feel like their fans are just horrible at the games, and I can't root for them. I'm not sure if I'll be rooting for either. Do I want the Chiefs to get a 3-peat? I don't really care. I don't have no hate. I like Andy Reid.
I don't want the Chiefs to get the 3-peat just so it gets shut down. It's kind of like the Miami Dolphins now for the undefeated, right? We can just drop that on everybody because nobody else has done it in the NFL.
I just have a hard time thinking that Eagles are going to win that game. I don't know. Maybe it's my thing who could like the refs. I don't think the NFL is going to allow the Chiefs to lose the game.
Well, but Well, it
But
sounds like Travis Kelce might retire, so they only need Taylor Swift at one more football game for the ratings, and then after he retires, it'll be
but
all set.
But that'll be the thing. Can they stop the run? Because
Yep.
the refs only help them so much. And I'm not gonna blame the refs. It's not always the refs, but I watch a few Chiefs games, and dude, anyone who says that, it's like I've seen NFL players come out like, "Oh, stop blaming the refs are horrible." All right,
Yep.
and they need to be held accountable. And the NFL needs to open their eyes to saying, "Hey, people are fed up with this." And
Yep.
it's not just the Chiefs. A big part of it is, but like if a big you're calling the game the same way you did in 1975.
Yep.
You're pulling the change. You're doing the same thing since the 70s. Fix your stuff. Pay your refs millions of dollars. I don't care. Have them study. Have them be better. Put laser tags in the ball. Make it right so that what's supposed to be called. Have a ref up in the box who overlooks everything and changes it on a dime. You say pass interference, he's looking at TV, that's not pass interference, calls it down, boom, not pass interference. Doesn't waste time. Has someone up there that can overturn everything and fix it so that you're getting most of the calls right. Because right now it's not.
And the one thing I will say that really bothers me, because I watched that punt return by Kansas City, right? And I saw at least 3 holdings. I saw them, right? So I saw these holding penalties. And then my wife was right there, and I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're calling holding on him." And she said, "Well, it was a hold. It was a defensive back from Buffalo." I said, "Yes, I get it, but then it should be this for that, because they're not going to call holding on Kansas City clearly on a punt return. They shouldn't be calling holding on that play right there, because it's basically the same thing." Yeah. And yet, it's not like that. It's weighted differently. And the other thing, this burned me to my core, and I don't think it changed the outcome of the game. I'm not saying that. But to see Keyshawn Nixon get that fumble back, recover it, laying on the ground, and everybody saying, "Oh, it looks like he's got a full recovery on the ground. He's down," right? And they still don't overturn it. What the hell are you looking at the play for anyways if you're not going to overturn it? Because it's clearly there. He recovered the ball.
And it was a helmet-to-helmet hit. Yeah, there was. Yeah,
but
I don't like blaming the refs in the games of Packer games, because I feel like it just makes you look like a whiner. Yeah. But that's why I always talk about different games, like the Chiefs, whatever. Because
the refs. Well, what I'm saying, when you saw that replay and they said it right, I'm not saying that we lost the game because of that, because I think we would have lost. I
think it kind of set the tempo.
Yeah,
a little bit. I think
but it was like, how do you look at somebody recover a football and say no, it's not? Or how do you like the Josh Allen first down? How do you say that's not a first down on that fourth down, jump?
Yeah.
How did you say that?
Yeah.
And then how did you say in Philadelphia that, if they jump over again, we're going to award a touchdown? Oh, you're going to? I've never seen that happen ever. Right? You're going to do that? Just unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't like the whole, the ref should not be allowed to award points.
Yeah. Nope.
If it gets to that, we're like, oh, first of all, they weren't doing it on purpose. They're trying to jump the snap count.
Yeah.
But if it gets to that point, they should start ejecting players. Yeah. Eject the coach. I don't care. Never award points.
Nope.
There should be mass ejections before they can even say, "Hey, you got to lose 3 players. 3 starters got to go." I don't care. I would rather that before they are allowed to award points, which I don't think has ever happened. Maybe it has way back when. I've never seen it. Most people I hear talk about it never seen it. But I would never be okay with awarding points without a touchdown. I don't care. Start. Like you say, kick people out of the games, eject them. Like I say, even eject the coach. I don't care. They do it in baseball.
But the problem that we have now is we used to watch every game and you say, "Oh my God, did you see that touchdown pass? Oh my God, did you see that sack? Or did you see that interception? Or did you see the running back run?" I guarantee you within the first 2 statements of any game, did you see that call? Yeah. I can't believe they made that call. And with the technology we have and the skill we have and the cameras we have, how are those calls missed? That's the thing that, to your point, the NFL needs to fix that. And there's no accountability, right? It just becomes like the refs are becoming part of the game, which really kind of turns my stomach sometimes. That's all my 2 cents are, right? Just don't make them part of the game. They shouldn't be a focal point.
Yeah, so. I'm absolutely with that. We are going to wrap this thing up. Big thanks, Mr. Ivan Lars. You can find him on Instagram. And we're gonna do some videos this offseason, especially once it starts getting warm. You know what I mean? It's a little bit chilly these days. You know what I mean?
We can walk the draft area, right?
I'm gonna be down there for the draft. We got a lot of stuff going on. I'm already getting like plans are starting to develop. I don't even know what I'm gonna do for the whole draft, but we got some plans brewing over there. But it's gonna be a good time. The draft this April is gonna be wild in Green Bay.
Yes, it is.
We'll have
Thank
another
you, sir.
show talking about that. There you go. Ivan Lars, baby. Check him out on Instagram. We got the music playing right here. Like, let me hit this button. Look at this. What do you think about this intro song?
I love it.
All right, we're out of here. Thanks for watching live. Thanks for everyone listening on the podcast. I appreciate it. And if you never listen on the podcast, the Matt Ramage Show.